New South Wales just recorded a net loss of 24,328 residents in a single year, the worst outflow of any Australian state. Queensland absorbed most of them, gaining over 21,000. But the Sydney to Queensland migration story hides a sharper question. Of the 5 corridors pulling these families right now, which ones actually deliver a better life, and which ones quietly cost you more than you saved? Statewide averages mask the true destinations of this migration. The Australian Bureau of Statistics tracks permanent relocations at the local level and through provisional regional internal migration data, mapping individual moves down to statistical area level 2 and local government area boundaries. This localized tracking isolates the exact corridors absorbing the population shift, excluding temporary student or short-term work stays. The resulting data identifies 5 specific receiving zones grouped into 3 distinct categories: coastal amenity, commuter belt affordability, and rapid and outer growth expansion. This localized analysis moves past broad lifestyle stories to measure the actual, everyday financial calculations behind the move north. Gold Coast City absorbed a net inflow of 4,800 New South Wales residents, but many of these arrivals are bypassing the high-density coastal strip for the acreage of the hinterland. Here, buyers exchange suburban density for larger lifestyle blocks, pushing median house prices in these mountain and valley communities to $1.2 million. It is a market competing on the physical rhythm of daily life rather than bargain basement pricing. While a diverse local job mix in tourism, construction, and healthcare anchors the region to the broader Gold Coast economy, the trade-off is structural isolation. Nearly 74% of residents commute by private car, navigating long daily drives on roads with minimal public transport coverage. Further north, the Sunshine Coast is the largest single recipient among the 5 destinations, absorbing a net inflow of approximately 5,200 New South Wales residents. This corridor attracts permanent settlers, drawing families with its established schools, medical services, and stable lifestyle options. It is a market dominated by long-term owner-occupiers. However, this scale of migration brings significant local challenges. The sheer volume of new arrivals is outstripping local capacity, creating visible bottlenecks on arterial roads, stretching public services, and tightening the new housing supply. This high rapid population growth is actively testing the limits of regional infrastructure, proving that high aspiration eventually collides with physical constraints. Logan City represents a shift from scenic aspirations to daily logistics, absorbing a net inflow of approximately 3,900 New South Wales residents. This corridor functions as a pragmatic, utility-driven alternative for households seeking to secure affordable housing without disconnecting from the Brisbane metropolitan economy. It operates on practical geography rather than coastal prestige, utilizing direct rail lines and the Pacific Motorway to keep travel times manageable. An active industrial and commercial employment base keeps the area self-contained, preventing it from becoming a quiet commuter suburb. For these thousands of relocating families, the choice of Logan is structured by immediate budget discipline, where success is measured in daily commute times and stable household balance sheets. Ipswich represents the clearest supply and space story in this migration wave, operating as a planned expansion corridor rather than a reactive one. The local government area added roughly 5,800 residents between June 2024 and June 2025, driven in part by a net inflow of 3,200 New South Wales arrivals. The draw card here is land. Unlike tighter coastal markets, Ipswich offers larger blocks in newly master-planned estates, establishing a practical route for first home buyers. The local council's growth strategy actively supports this, zoning for 12,500 new dwellings by 2035. This steady flow of new land helps keep the market accessible, with the median house price sitting at $845,000. While the region sits on the outer ring, direct rail access connects residents to the Brisbane Central Business District in 55 minutes, keeping city employment within reach for households prioritizing the family budget. The 5th destination in this migration pattern is the Moreton Bay region, directly north of Brisbane. This corridor absorbed approximately 4,300 arrivals from New South Wales, positioning itself as a middle ground between capital city access and outer ring affordability. Unlike the cheaper acreage of the hinterlands or the rapid land releases in Ipswich, Moreton Bay competes on proximity, offering a diverse mix of established bayside neighborhoods and newer northern estates like Childcare. Families here are making a conscious compromise, giving up a larger portion of their potential housing windfalls to secure shorter transit times. This region marks the last geographical boundary of the migration wave, setting up a direct test of whether these interstate moves actually balance out on the household ledger. The housing market remains the primary source of savings. While Sydney's median weekly rent sits at $841, the receiving corridors in Queensland offer substantial relief. Weekly rents in Logan and Ipswich average between $620 and $660, while Childcare sits at $640. Even the high-demand Gold Coast hinterland averages $680, presenting an immediate reduction in housing stress. This gap translates to direct savings for buyers too, with Ipswich's median house price of $845,000, sitting at nearly half of Sydney's $1.65 million median. However, these housing savings do not guarantee a cheaper life overall. Daily logistics can quickly chip away at the initial financial advantage. In the outer corridors and hinterlands, where public transport is limited, car dependency is high. Commuters driving from Ipswich or the Gold Coast hinterland face long daily trips, increasing fuel consumption and vehicle maintenance. These transport costs can offset a portion of the weekly rent savings. Other everyday budget lines offer more stable relief. Childcare fees in regional Queensland average $95 to $105 per day, compared to $110 to $125 in Sydney's inner suburbs. Annual council rates also vary, with Brisbane averages sitting at $1,150 compared to Sydney's $1,800. Milder winters slightly reduce heating bills, though summer air conditioning keeps electricity costs active. While these everyday expenses generally favor Queensland, relocators must independently verify state-specific transaction costs, such as stamp duty and concession thresholds, before committing. Cheaper housing provides a head start, but the total balance sheet depends on the daily commute. For one Sydney family, the theoretical savings became a concrete calculation. Priced out of Sydney's inner west market, they spent 2 years watching mortgage rates climb while living in a cramped rental. The decision to move to Ipswich came down to the simple math of a backyard and local primary schools that did not have wait lists. They traded their daily light rail commute for a 55-minute train ride into Brisbane, purchasing a newly built 4-bedroom home on a quiet street. The shift relieved the constant pressure of a massive mortgage, though it introduced an unexpected reliance on 2 cars for basic grocery runs. This balance of daily compromises and financial breathing room is repeating across hundreds of households, driving the human side of the interstate migration wave. In the Sunshine Coast hinterland, the interstate move is defined by a search for quiet acreage. Here, where 68% of residents own their homes, a median house price of $720,000 buys a distinct physical distance from Sydney's density. For the 22% of locals working in knowledge-based professions, daily productivity relies entirely on regional broadband connections. Yet, this relocation introduces clear service trade-offs. Daily routines are heavily car-dependent, with travel to major business centers often taking up to 2 hours. Lifestyle gains in the valley are balanced against these transit times and more localized healthcare options, proving that the move to regional tranquility requires accepting a slower, more self-reliant pace of life. As Queensland's growth corridors rapidly fill, the financial divide between states is closing fast. The true cost of relocation is no longer measured in house prices, but in the long-term trade-offs of lifestyle versus infrastructure. Is the move still worth it? Share your thoughts below.